In this video, let's go ahead and see if we can find the equations of some parallel and perpendicular lines together. So for this particular practice problem, we have this picture here where we have three straight lines. A couple quick things to note right from the beginning is that because we have these two right angle symbols, we know that line Q is going to be parallel to line N. That should hopefully make sense because these consecutive interior angles are supplementary or add up to 180 degrees. On top of that, these two right angle symbols also let us know that line M here is going to be perpendicular to line Q, and that line M here is also going to be perpendicular to line N. Alright, now that we hopefully understand the picture a little bit more, let's see what the questions are asking. We need to go ahead and find the equation of line M here. Now if you look at line M, that's this blue line over here. We actually only have 1 point on this line, so we can't start with that, right? We only know that 2, 6 is on there. That's not enough information. Something that we do have a lot more information on, or a little bit more that we can work with, is line N. Notice how for line N, which is going to be this line over here, we have 2 points, and we're going to start with these 2 points because we can go ahead and find the slope for line N and work our way over to line M afterwards. Alright, so let's go ahead and see if we can find the equation for line N. Now, for line N here, I'm going to go ahead and just call this one x1 over here and y1. And I'm going to call this x2 and then y2 for now. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can find the slope for line N. So remember, this is our formula for slope, and if we go ahead and plug in each of these values, and we find out the slope for line M is going to be 5/3. Alright, so we have a slope over here and we have 2 points. We have either 4, 4 or 1, -1, and we're going to go ahead and use point slope form to write the equation of this line. So what's that point slope form again? That's right, that's this right over here. I'm going to go ahead and use maybe this 4, 4 for this x1, y1, and I'm going to go ahead and use the slope of 5/3 in for M. If we go ahead and write that, we should get the equation of y minus this 4 is going to be equal to 5/3, that's the slope, multiplied by this x minus x1, which is going to also be 4. Now, while finding the slope for line N was really important for the rest of the problem, we didn't really need to find the equation for line N, but in case you needed it or wanted to know it, hopefully that was some good extra practice. So let's go ahead and actually use this slope of 5/3 to go and find out the equation for line M. Now, if we're going to want to get over to line M, we're actually going to have to deal with line Q first. So now that we know the slope for this line N over here is going to be 5/3, because line N and line Q are going to be parallel to each other, right? These two are parallel lines. Then we need to remember that they are going to have the same slope. That being said, for line Q, we know that the slope of it is going to be equal to this 5/3. Now, what else do we know about line Q? Well, we also know that this 2, 6 is on there, so that's going to be a point. So let's go ahead and write down that we know a point that's going to be on line Q is going to be this 2, 6. So again, this brings us back to that point slope form again, which is this thing over here. So we're going to go ahead and substitute in 5/3 in for M, this 2 in for this x1, and then the 6 in for y1. So if we go ahead and do that, we're going to get y minus 6 is going to be equal to this 5/3 multiplied by x minus 2. Now, while technically this is an equation of line Q written in point slope form, we can also write it in slope-intercept form, or that y equals mx plus b form, if we just go ahead and distribute the 5/3 and move some things around. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that just in case to review a little bit. But we have y minus 6 is equal to 5/3 times x, or 5/3 x minus, and then 5/3 times this -2 is going to be -10/3. Okay, now if we're going to go ahead and isolate this y on the left by itself, let's go ahead and just add 6 to both sides here. So if we go ahead and add 6 and add 6, we're just going to get y on the left side, and that's going to be equal to this 5/3 x on the right side. And then for this -10/3 plus 6, that's going to be this -10/3 plus 6. That's 6/1, which is the same thing as 18/3 if you get common denominators. So -10 plus 18 is going to be 8, so it's going to be 8/3, right? So that's going to be the y-intercept here. It's going to be at positive 8/3. All right, so this is going to be the equation for line Q, which I think is one of the ones that we were looking for, and I accidentally realized that I did these out of order, but that's okay. And so while I said I was going to do line M first, I accidentally did line Q, so here's the equation for line Q. And again, you can write it in point slope form, or you can write it in slope intercept form, but this is slope intercept form. Now let's actually do line M, which is going to be this perpendicular line. This one's not going to have the same slope, right? This one's going to have the opposite reciprocal slope as the other two lines. So let's go ahead and deal with line M now. So line M, we know some information about it. We only know that there's this one point of 2, 6. However, we know it's going to have the opposite reciprocal as line Q and N in terms of the slopes, right? So let's go ahead and take a look. We have the slope here of 5/3 and 5/3. That was N and Q because they're parallel. But let's use a different slope for line M. All right, so for line M, we're going to go ahead and take this point of 2, 6 and go ahead and write that down. If we go ahead and write that down, we can say we have this point of 2, 6, which matches the same point on line Q because that dot was on both of those lines. As for the slope for line M, keep in mind that we knew the slopes for N and Q were 5/3 because they're parallel, but line M is perpendicular, so it's going to have the opposite reciprocal slope of -3/5. So remember to flip it over, find the reciprocal, and make it negative because it has to be the opposite. All right, so right now we have a point and we have a slope. So surprise, surprise, we can go ahead and use point slope form. This is going to be our point, our x1, y1, and this is going to be our slope of M. So if we go ahead and plug this in, we're going to get y minus y1, which is going to be 6, is equal to M, which is this -3/5 here, multiplied by x minus 2. All right, if we go ahead and leave it like this would be the equation for M. So if you're okay leaving it like this in point slope form, then go ahead and do so. But just like earlier, if we want to go ahead and write this in slope-intercept form, which sometimes you or your teacher may want you to do, so let's go ahead and just do that momentarily here. Let's go ahead and distribute. If we do that, we're going to get y minus 6 is going to be equal to -3/5 x. And then -3/5 times -2 is going to be a +6/5. Now if we want to get y alone, so we have this in slope-intercept form, which is really just that y equals mx plus b form. We can add 6 to both sides. And if we do that, we're going to end up with y on the lone on the left side, and that's going to be equal to this -3/5 x plus whatever the sum is over here of 6/5 and 6. So 6/5 is just going to be 6/5. We're going to add 6 to this, but 6 is the same thing as 30/5. We're using common denominators here. And then so we can add these to get 36/5. So that would be the y-intercept here. So it's going to be 36/5. So while we did have the equation in point slope form here, here is the equation in slope-intercept form. So this right here would be the equation for line M, which I know I said we were going to do first, but I accidentally did second, so sorry about that. But that's the equation for line M. So that just about wraps up this video. If you found it helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing with a classmate or friend who might also find it helpful. And as always, keep up the great work that you're already doing, and I'll see you in the next one.